All right, what's going on, everyone? I finally watched The Studio season one. I'm like 4 or 5 months behind or something like that. I finally saw it, and I gotta say, I think it's the best show of the year, in my opinion. I'm just glad because I heard a lot of hype about it. I heard that it was really funny. I heard about some of the bits beforehand, so I was a little worried that it might be a little too hyped up or that some of the stuff might have been ruined. Nope, honestly, unless like you've watched spoiler reviews, like you honestly are not gonna have any clue like what's going down. I mean, if you like actually work in the studio space, because this takes place at a film studio called the Continental or just Continental, and I'm sure if you work in that environment, you can probably predict some things that will happen. But for the normies like us, just so much crazy stuff happens. Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, they're just probably like one of the best duos working out there. They directed most of them together, most of the episodes. They're two of like 5 or 6 people listed as creators, and all of the creators wrote different episodes. So you get some. I'm sure it was laid out like that because I'm pretty sure they've all been in the industry for decades now. So they all have all these individual stories, and I'm sure when they were pitching the show, they were like, "Oh yeah, this one time this happened to me," and they were probably like, "Oh, that would be hilarious for an episode. You write that one, and you write that, and you write that. We'll write this one." So I'm sure that's just how that worked out. Like, because like the stories in the show, like the stuff you just can't make up. Like for television, it's just like it has that cringe secondhand embarrassment thing, but like in a good way, where you're kind of just like, oh no, no, stop. Like people are like having like awkward conversations with. There's a lot of celebrity cameos in the show, like a lot of celebrities, a lot of actors, directors, freaking like scoopers and stuff. There's just like all kinds of cameos in the show, and so you have one of the characters having to break bad news to like Ron Howard or Martin Scorsese or something. It's just like, it's just one of those things where, having to tell like prolific directors or whatever that you're canceling their movie or whatever. It's just, can't even imagine having to do that. But yeah, Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, they're kind of like Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Phil Lord and Chris Miller are more on, I mean, they did 21 Jump Street and stuff, but I mean, they're doing Spider-Verse. They did Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. So they've done a lot of like family kind of things, and Rogen and Goldberg are the complete opposite with The Boys and Invincible. And this show isn't violent, but it's, a lot of swearing, a lot of drugs. There's only like one quick sex scene, so there's not really much of that in the show at all. But yeah, Seth Rogen, he plays Matt Remick, and he's promoted to studio head by Bryan Cranston, who plays Griffin Mill, follows the antics of everyday studio life. And like I said, a lot of it's played up for comedy, but I'm sure a lot of it is actually just rooted in reality, and just the ridiculousness of the scenario adds comedy itself. Like there's an episode where Seth Rogen's character does a set visit with Ike Barinholtz's character, who plays Sal Saperstein, who is one of the creative executives there. And it's just ridiculous the things that are happening. And I can just imagine like Seth Rogen being on a set like 10, 15 years ago, or even recently, kind of newer to the business, trying to make a name for yourself, and your boss shows up and they have all these ideas, and you're kind of just like, oh yeah, sure. You want to like get something from them, so you're just like, oh yeah, sure, totally, man, totally. Ruining all these shots. And well, because the thing in the episode is they're trying to get a shot for golden hour, which is like 30 to 45 minutes like max that you have. He keeps ruining the shots. The director's getting pissed at him and everyone. But again, it's one of those things where it's like, he's writing your checks, so you can't really get too mean. Not that Seth Rogen's character in the show would just fire people for getting mad at him. He does have a fragile ego, but he works on that throughout the season. But I think having all these ideas and they keep doing all these things, when that's another thing the show touches on. It's the show is really about the artists. It's a celebration of artists and stuff like that. And in the show, like even Seth Rogen's character they talk about being bean counters and how studio heads should focus on the business side because that's what they're there for. And the creatives handle the creative side, but I know that the creative stuff needs to make money for the business side. So, but again, and then you get the clashing, and then that's where you get like studio movies like Craven and Morbius and stuff like that. And you got stupid idiots like Sony CEO or whatever. He was like, we can't make bad movies anymore, guys. Or RV Arad or whatever his name is. He's like, we can't make bad movies anymore, guys. Like, what the heck? And I'm like, yeah, like who would have thought? Don't make shitty movies. Like, and it was even dumb too. He was like, there was a time where everything superhero related just was a hit. No, that's not true. Justice League was a failure in like 2017, and that was Marvel was banging. Even look back to like Halle Berry Catwoman. Like there are so many prolific bad comic book movies. So again, it was just CEO, out of touch CEO proving that they're still out of touch and don't learn anything. And that's another thing that the show like touches on. And you've probably heard about the Kool-Aid Man. There's a whole plot line in the show about they have to make a movie about the Kool-Aid Man. So it's just It's just ridiculous, just and again, that actually happens. These executives are like, oh, this is gonna be a banger, bro. We have to do this. People like Kool-Aid. You know what I'm saying? Kool-Aid. But again, it just shows how out of touch some of these people are and how involved they get in the process and how they tend to ruin things. Yeah, just the main team is great because Seth Rogen, Ike Barinholtz, and you have Chase Sui Wonders, who I don't really know much of where she's from, but she's also a creative executive, and she plays Quinn. And Catherine Hahn is in this show as well, and she's honestly just like on a whole nother like plane of existence. Like her character, she's like the marketing person, but she takes that, hey, what's up, fellow kids, to like 100. So she's like using Gen Z, Gen Alpha coded words and stuff like that. And she's like slat. And like, it's just like Valley Girl. It's just insane. Like the whole cast, they're all doing crazy things. And Catherine O'Hara is in this as well. She used to work for Continental, but she was fired by Bryan Cranston's character. And obviously they go into that more throughout the show, but she's self-financing a movie, producing a movie, so that's why she's around, and she's also friends with Matt. And yeah, the chaotic energy that they all have matches in the scenarios, and I mean, it makes it more heightened and increases the stakes for some things, even though some of the stakes, like when they're casting the Kool-Aid Man, they're like, the character needs to be a certain race, otherwise people are gonna get mad. So just things like that where they might start building delusions in their head, and so you have a whole episode just centered around them creating problems for themselves, which again seems very realistic for this setting. The season is 10 episodes, but they flew by like really fast. They're only half-hour episodes, and there were times I had to like stop and take a break because I didn't want to just burn through the whole show so fast. Unlike Stick, towards the last 3 or 4 episodes, I was kind of like, okay, I'm ready for this to be over. But this show, I was just like, I really need season 2, because even the ending had a very heartfelt message, again, playing to the fact that this show is about the creatives, the artists who actually make the work, who actually put their heart and soul into these things. So for the show to actually, while being a ridiculous, absurd, while also realistic look at studio life, the show it's all about the artists. It's called The Studio, but it's about the people who make the art that makes the money that builds the studio. And like I said earlier, Seth Rogen's character has a pretty good like character arc. There's a lot of episodes where his ego is pretty fragile. There's one episode in particular where he goes to it's like a banquet for doctors. At first, it seems like it might be an ego thing, but then you're like, no, these people are just all jerks. So Seth Rogen, though, is just a likable person in general. He's got one of those personalities where anytime you bring up Seth Rogen, people are just like, oh yeah, I like Seth Rogen. He's cool, he's funny, he's got that recognizable laugh. I think it makes it easier to believe that a studio head could actually build some character and realize the wrongs of their ways and try to be better for the sake of the art. And I mean, of course, the bottom line, because that's your job, but end of the day, you care more about the actual art that you're making. And I appreciated that stuff. And it's also one of those shows where it's like, when you want to be a filmmaker, a lot of things inspire you. But I feel like nowadays, especially, again, like what the show covers, a lot of studio interference and all this stuff. But I mean, there's still plenty of original good content. It's just that the studio stuff gets pushed to the front of the media first. But yeah, overall, I think it's probably one of the best shows I've seen in a while. So I'm just gonna go all out. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5 for the studio. Season 1. Here's to hoping season 2 keeps the ball rolling. Hopefully it doesn't lose its pizzazz. I don't know if that makes sense. And also the show has a lot of one shots too. So the show is shot very elaborately. And Seth Rogen even brings it up. He's like, yeah, there wasn't much improv at all because, again, there's a lot of one shots. So people have to hit their marks when they have to hit them. And I think it just adds to the overall chaos of the show because everything is so fine tuned, so perfect. And then because the beats hit when they're supposed to. And when they do hit, you're just like, oh my God. It's just one thing after another. And I just think the show is great. And it's just one of those things where after watching it, it's just one of those things where you're like, this is why I want to be a filmmaker. Just, chaotic stuff aside, the actual filmmaking parts that they show, they show a lot of the awards side, a lot of the gratification of being involved with something like that and seeing it through to the end. So I think overall, just a really great show. And if you're a filmmaker or just really enjoy film in general, but also casual people, if you don't care about any of this at all, you can still watch it and find it funny. So yeah, Studio season 1. Did you see it? Did you not see it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know. Hit the like button, subscribe. Peace.